Hello, 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 hello. So, hello, welcome if you are watching. If anybody is out there watching, we've got Javier Wallace of Wilderness Hymnal, who should hopefully be here shortly. We've never done this thing before with different people, but I've got the guest requests thing set, so it should work. Hi, Heather. Hi, hi, hi. So thank you, Heather, for inviting me to do this and inviting us to have this conversation. Hopefully we can get Javier on here. I don't know if he's in yet. It says there's 3 people, but I can't see who they are apart from Heather. But I think it says that Javier can request to join. We've got requests allowed. So fingers crossed. So I hope everybody's well. If you are watching, there's 3 or 4 people it says here watching, which is fantastic. So I hope you're having great days, great evenings, great afternoons, great mornings. If it's a morning there, probably not, but you never know. Could be someone in Australia or something, I guess. In which case it will probably be not the morning actually. But yes. So hi, Brandy and the Butcher. Hi, Elizabeth. Yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. So yeah, we're going to talk about creativity. We're going to talk about songwriting. We're going to talk about inspiration. We're going to talk about how we still do what we do during these times, these COVID times, which maybe are going to last quite a lot longer. We don't really know yet. I'm just hoping we can get Javier on anytime soon, and then we can do this. Yeah, it's interesting. It shows me some of the viewers, so I can see. I think it shows me if you comment. Aha! Javier has put a request in. Lift off. It's the first time that I've done a Facebook Live split screen, and I think it's the same for Javier as well.
Is it?
Hello!
Okay, it's working.
Success! How are you doing?
Sweaty.
Sweaty.
Very
Well,
sweaty.
it looks like you've got a cool new haircut, so that's good, man. I like it.
Well, I was neglecting myself a little bit, so
It's easy to do
decided to.
these days with COVID and things. Hi, Lizzie. Hi,
What?
hi, 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 hi,
Hi, Lizzie.
hi. Yeah. So
Whew.
just to introduce a little bit then. So I'm Duncan Evans. So I do music under my own name as a solo artist. I call it dark folk, post punk. I do some stuff with a band, but I also do shows solo acoustic. I play guitar and I sing and I write songs. And Javier can introduce himself more probably in a minute, but he does a fantastic, amazing project called Wilderness Hymnal. And actually, myself and Javier are working together. We're doing a collaboration album, which we can't say anything about the label yet, I don't think, Javier, but we have actually got a label involved now, which is great. So we're working on a collaboration track, and and the rest of the album will be a split. So it'll be some of my tracks, some of Javier's tracks. Not quite sure when it'll be out yet, but it will be out, and it's all happening. So yeah, Javier, introduce yourself, I guess.
I feel like trying to plan anything for anyone right now is a bit of a mission. But yeah, so my name is Javier Wallace. If anyone's wondering, my mother is Venezuelan. This is why I have this name, but this accent. Um, I'm, I guess, a multidisciplinary artist, though it's only really this year that I've sort of felt comfortable calling myself that. But I'm primarily a pianist, vocalist, composer, producer, songwriter. But I'm also a visual artist. I've recently branched out into working with film this year, which is very exciting. But I do a lot of collage and photography work and illustration as well. So yeah, not quite a jack of all trades, but jack of a couple of trades.
Jack of many trades. Yeah, cool. All right, so I think you're over in Utrecht in the Netherlands at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so upon the Brexit vote surfacing, I concocted a plan and effectively I've run away to music school So I'm doing my second degree. I'm doing a music degree in the conservatory in Utrecht as an excuse to get out of Britain for a while. Turns out it wasn't such a bad idea after all, given the COVID response and etc. So on the one hand, quite homesick, but on the other hand, yeah, not such a bad idea.
Yeah, cool. So tell us about how things are going over there then. So like, because I know in the UK, different places are locking down. It doesn't look like proper live shows are coming back anytime soon. Probably not anywhere, but there's a few outdoor things going on. And there's individual cities and towns and areas are starting to lock down again. There seems to be a bit of a second wave. So that seems to be what we're moving into really. So how's it going over there? What can you do? What can't you do? How's it looking over the next few months and stuff?
A thing I've observed since being here is Dutch society is quite sort of libertarian in its outlook, its general attitude. So not been any kind of complete lockdown so far. So what they did first of all is they closed schools and universities and gyms and restaurants and stuff like that. But people were still allowed to go outside. Like they have quite a strong emphasis on outdoor culture here, which is good and healthy. But a lot of shops remained open and stuff. So I have a part time job side gig at a well known sportswear retailer. And I basically stopped going into work and started working from home by choice around between March and June. But they very much opened back up again, and we're still required to go in. And most people here aren't wearing masks. I think kind of a lot of people have just stubbornly tried to go back to life as normal and really want everything to continue as it was. So I'd anticipate another lockdown coming soon. In the sense of, universities and gyms and restaurants closing again, and I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Nobody really knows, do they? So I suppose that sort of leads on to inspiration. So and feel free to ask me questions as well, and we can sort of go back and forth on these things. But how do you sort of remain inspired and keep the creative drive going when things are uncertain? There's a lot of stuff that we can't do that we normally would with our music and arts and things like that. So how's that going for you, and how do you keep going in these uncertain and difficult times?
I mean, I think this is the hot topic right now because honestly, I'm kind of not. I'm not like I had some stuff to tie up round about June sort of time, and that's when I started doing the film work. Because okay, so this is a yes and no answer. So the yes part is that my university program just went online, and suddenly we were all video artists or having to kind of think outside the box of doing things as performances. We were expected to come up with like a 15-minute conceptual piece of music and performance, and I ended up making a short film out of some songs that came from that concept. But I also snuck in a song that we've been working on for our split. But I also in 4 days made a lot of very quick decisions and put together this short film. So that was I really shocked myself actually. It was a great experience, and I'm really happy I've done it because it was just being forced to push your own envelope. But since then, I've been kind of taking some time out and wrangling with kind of more personal life situation stuff. But basically getting back on the wagon because of necessity, really. So as you've mentioned, we're doing this split together, and I've got a responsibility that I've been neglecting a little bit. So that's my big motivation really now is that we've started creating this great opportunity together and really wanting to put everything back into that and make sure it happens. And I think at this point, psychologically, in where we are with the coronavirus and I think we all need something to hold on to. So I guess it depends on who you are as a person, but I'm the kind of person that if I need deadlines to create and I need purposes for work, I really struggle to write when it's not got a planned purpose yet, or creating. So for instance, I used to do a lot of gig posters, and that was they had a purpose and a deadline, so I delivered. But I find my neuroticism and my laziness both get in the way if I don't have a plan.
Mhm. Yeah, no.
So I don't know about you, because it's a very different situation over there for you. So I would ask, like, with all the limits on your personal movement, how are you managing to be creative?
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, look, it's a strange time. I mean, I think for me, at the very start of lockdown, it was actually kind of. I had a lot of creative energy that kind of sprung up. And I think that was about having a bit more time at home. And I think perhaps I'd had quite a few ideas just bubbling under that I perhaps hadn't quite had time to put into practice. And then suddenly I had this time, and also it was a weird thing for me because I got ill. So it probably was COVID. I don't know. I didn't have a test, but I had quite bad flu for about 28 days, so it probably was COVID. So I got ill just right at the start. So we hadn't quite locked down when I first got ill, and then within about a week of getting ill, when I was still ill, it all locked down, and so it was all really weird and a bit intense and slightly scary and
Mm.
strange. But
Yeah.
I found that in a strange way it gave me a lot of creative energy. So I started a new project, I think called Moonlow, which I've got an album coming out in October, which is different type of music, sort of noisy synth-based ambient music with kind of whispered and screamed spoken words, poetry over the top.
But
So that
this
was
has
sort of,
come. So you wrote the entire Moonlow record in lockdown. Is that
yes,
right? Is
yeah. I just
Wow.
I just did it really really fast, and
Yeah.
yeah, like the lyrics for the first 9 songs they're titled Day One, Day Two, Day Three, etc. And I did just write the lyrics on those days, with minimal editing, tiny bit of editing afterwards, but it was very
Wow.
minimal. And the music was very much. It was a different approach. It was a kind of throwing caution to the wind, sort of. Right, I'm just going to sit at the computer. I'm going to sit with the synth sounds. I'm going to experiment a bit, get a cool synth sound, and then I'm just going to basically hit record and see what happens. And sometimes I had to it, but a lot of the time I ended up keeping that. I would just improvise something for about 5 minutes or whatever, and that would be it. And then I'd do a few overdubs, and then later on record the lyrics I'd already written, and that was it. So it was a very different way, a less structured, less planned way of working. But somehow the energy of everything going weird and the world going crazy, somehow it sort of fed that. Um,
I think sometimes that you need that improvisational, like, low perfectionism energy. I think, and now that I think about it, an interesting point is self perception is can be a bit of a fickle thing, because now that I think about it, a way to remain creative, I think, for people at this time is anyone who's watching who's kind of interested in this idea, really dig into your emotions, really dig into how you're feeling, and use that as the creative starting point or the wellspring. Because we all, God knows, we've all got a lot emotionally going on right now, and that's where there'll be a release and a catharsis. And funnily enough, I kind of forgot about this because I did this before that other project, maybe around April time. But I had a very specific emotion that led me to do this nice little collaborative project, which I've been working on with my friend Lisa Opio. She's a Swedish singer-songwriter. She's also a live member of the band Promise and the Monster, who are a great band on Bella Union Records. And we did a specific cover. I don't really want to tell anyone what it is, but it's by Björk, and it was about this very specific emotion that I was feeling very intensely and felt the need to kind of expunge that. But then it turned into this lovely little distance collaboration. My friend Dalpunt, who's a Dutch producer, also produced it with me, and the video that's coming out has contributions from about 15 of my friends, and ended up being really, really rewarding. This kind of uh, taking the opportunity when we're all divided to actually work together. So,
Totally.
okay, so there's some comments I would like to just jump
Yeah.
on. So, Kiki Deirdre. So, Deirdre is a great Dutch singer-songwriter as well. Um, she has a really nice video I want to talk about actually. She put a one-take song on that where she's playing 12-string guitar. It's really rich. I think everyone should go and listen to it.
Cool.
So Kiki's asking about digging into your emotions and any tips how. Um, and I think it's just learning to try and sit with your emotions and your feelings. And I think this feeds into a question that I was sent beforehand by Johan van Hartum about self-criticism in creativity. And I think a big barrier that we have is this kind of self-criticism, or like constantly critiquing what we do without allowing ourselves to just freely express, which is kind of what you've done with Moonlow. Um, I think you need to, I mean, if you want practical tips, Kiki, I would suggest getting into breath work and meditation, and just even closing your eyes and focusing on the breath for 10 breaths can be really like a really good starting point. And then just almost like asking yourself, like, okay, so how am I feeling right now? And then when the emotions come up, kind of just having a curious mind, like approaching these emotions curiously, and then just write or play or something. Um, but I think to do this, we need to be in a playful state, in a state where we're not judging ourselves and immediately judging every note or every lyric that comes out.
Hmm.
Yeah, are you still there? You thought you'd frozen there for a
I'm
second.
still here. Yeah, no, I might have just been
Okay,
still. I was just practicing
okay.
meditation, you see.
Yeah.
No.
So Johan van Hattum, who I think is watching, he is a fantastic musician. He's a member of a kind of a post-hardcore black metal band in Utrecht called Terzij de Horde, um,
Oh yeah, cool.
who interestingly have links back to like my friends in the Manchester hardcore scene. So like members of bands like Hammers. I think it's really funny that people link up, all the punks anyway. But Johan was asking me this about self-criticism in writing, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on this, Duncan.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to self-criticism in writing, how do you either overcome it or you try and use it?
Yeah, I mean it's hard, man. It is hard. You know, you put something on the page and you think, no, awful, or you play a few chords and you think, no, no, terrible. I think I've got a lot better at that over the years. So perhaps that's because I have written songs, I have produced songs, I've recorded albums and things, and you know, and they sound all right. You know, if I do say so myself, you know, I know they're not
That sounds all
terrible.
right.
So it's like, okay, I know I can do this. Um, but yeah, I think for me, the thing is getting started. It's like kind of you can sit there with a blank page, and that could be metaphorically speaking. You know, if you're trying to write music, or literally a blank page if you're writing lyrics, and nothing arrives sometimes. But I think what I have learned to do is just put anything down and just don't worry about it. Like don't judge it. Like yes, it might be terrible, but it also might not be. Just put it down anyway. You don't have to use it, and just start with that. And then it's almost like step by step, baby step by baby step. I often find that something starts to come, like you write a line and it's nothing. You might just write, I don't know, I'm looking at a white wall now. You might just write white wall, and then you see what spurs on from that, what is sparked from that. See if there's a second line that comes from that, and then after a few lines sometimes you kind of hit on something, and often it's a bit like what you've said about the emotion. Often it's kind of a feeling, and once you've got the feeling, then I find that you can kind of get on a roll with it. But yeah, so I suppose the things for me are, don't just be tempted to press delete. Just put something down. It might be awful. You don't have to use it. It's fine. Put it down, save it somewhere, come back to it, see what you think of it later. And then it's also the thing of just allowing that time, allowing one line to kind of inspire another, and just baby step by baby step, allowing things to come out. And the other thing as well is that, you know what? Yeah, sometimes accepting that you're going to sit down planning to write some songs, and sometimes you're just not going to come out with anything. But that's kind of part of the process, and you have to accept that. And it's being open to those other times when actually you'll be, I don't know, sitting watching the television, or you'll be on the train, or whatever it might be, and you have this creative spark, and you have an idea, you have a feeling, and there's something that you know is of value, and you want to get it down, you want to get it recorded, whatever. And I think the key is, do it. Don't let that go. So, for example, I always, if I have an idea like that, it might be when I'm driving, and I might have a little idea for a melody. And now, obviously, I don't literally do it there and then, but as soon as I'm stopped safely, I'll get my phone and I'll just record that melody. I'll just hum it into the phone, and I'll just save it as a silly name. And then it's there, and I'll come back to it. And I build up a bank of those sorts of ideas. And then they're kind of there. So when I do eventually plan to write the next album, the next song, whatever it is, I've kind of got a bank of different ideas. Some of them are just
to start with,
embryo, some of them are half formed, some of them are nearly fully formed. So those are a few things that I do. But yeah, self-criticism can get in the way, and you have to go that voice. I'll shut up in a minute, but I watched a thing recently with Will Self about creativity and about artistry, and he was basically saying, look, that voice is always there saying, this is rubbish, this is terrible, you're never going to be any good, you know, it's all been done before, you're just copying so and so. And he said he gets it, and he said, look, I promise you, everybody from John Keats to, I don't know, Mozart, they all had that till the day they died. So you've just got to kind of, as you said, you've got to learn to just live with it, and just
well,
work
I think
it
it can
carry on anyway.
yeah, I think now that what you've kind of highlighted there, what's just occurred to me is I'd be a bit worried if someone didn't have it. Like, when people lose the quality control, that's an issue. And I suppose it's something that you have to kind of learn to flex and refine. But yeah, finish what you were saying. Sorry, and then I'll jump on that.
It's cool. No, I mean, I've talked loads there, but I think, yeah, you've made a really good point now. And I think I mean, I'm not going to name any names here, but I have come across artists who maybe don't have that quality.
I love the gossip. Where I'm like,
where some stuff they do is great, but some stuff isn't. And I've actually particularly come across that with some artists who I've come across who are political, that try and make political points with their lyrics and stuff. That's fine. I don't have a big problem with that. But I also think that art should be art, and that I found that some of those artists have like really pushed themselves to write a song about whatever political thing is going on at the moment. So it might be you could write a song about the explosion in Lebanon, but it's like, this should be an essay. Like you've squeezed a bog standard average song around making a political point, and it's like, actually it's not really artistic. You need to have that filter. So it's balancing that. It's having a filter, but not letting it get the better of you, where it's just stifling the ideas that are actually good. It's a hard balance.
I mean, I also kind of want to hop on this idea about political, because I really think that anything can be art. And I'm also kind of the opinion that some actions themselves, like almost a lot of things are political. Like even the act of choosing to be apolitical is itself a political statement. I get what you're saying, because I think if someone feels, what I don't think works is when someone writes about something because they feel like they should.
Yes.
And again, I think the way, because I went and wrote a whole bloody record about climate anxiety and and all of that. And in it was like my first record, so it's called Anthropocene. So I like regret the title, and I go back and I look at it, and I'm like, this could have been a much more like nuanced, emotionally oriented thing. And a lot of parts of it are really emotionally oriented. But I think when it comes to current events and political affairs, the thing that makes it come alive with intention is your emotions, and starting with how you feel about it and your emotions, and communicating your emotions to people, because that's what you're doing as a songwriter. And what really doesn't work is proselytizing or preaching. Like, you know, if you're singing about like your emotional reasons for having for seeing something a certain way, then you know people are more likely to resonate with that, I think. Yeah. But going back to
No, go on.
Sorry, so you go ahead.
Okay, I was sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but no, I was just going to say, I think you've hit upon something there, which is, I tend to think that the best songs are somehow they're both very, very personal to the songwriter, but they also have a universal resonance, and there's something about, it's like you're tapping into something that you feel, which is probably similar, not always identical, but probably similar to what a lot of other people also feel, but something that isn't always communicated, isn't always talked about. And you've tapped into that. It's like comedy, you know, a lot of good comedy works because someone says something that's slightly outrageous or slightly odd, and you think, yeah, you know what, I think that thing, or I do that weird thing too. That's why it's funny. And it's a bit like that.
You're right.
Tap into something.
It's about teasing out that kind of, that core kind of aspect of the human experience, like the emotional aspect, even in political events, because any event will have that to it. So, well, the main example I can think of is this song, which I didn't want to tell people what it was, but
you don't have to.
Again, it's that aspect of what's happening in your life or what's happening to another person that is, and reflecting that on a wider stage. I think like specificity can often be like the death of imaginative songwriting, or at least like staying power for a song. I think if you're too specific, I think this is why I'm not a fan of putting things like contemporary technology in my songs, which I'm also kind of loosening up on, because I think it's important to reflect the era we're in. And I can think of great songs by artists like Marissa Nadler, where she sings this incredibly evocative line, which starts with, "If you ain't made it now, you're never gonna make it. 17 people in the dark tonight. You see some familiar faces behind the cellular lights." And it's just so evocative of seeing people's faces lit up by smartphones in an audience. So not always a rule, but I guess I'm just thinking aloud.
No, totally. It makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. So Heather says, like, you wrote the song just for me. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're getting at, that thing of a song tapping into something that you felt, which you don't know that other people feel, but actually, it turns out they do, because it's right here in this song. And then Patrick from Grave Next Door, hi Patrick agrees, bingo. Yeah.
Well, it's also like an artist like Lingua Ignota, who is, for people who don't know, Lingua Ignota is this incredible artist. Her name's Kristen Hayter, and she is from Providence, Rhode Island. And she's basically made a series of albums encapsulating the absolute all-encompassing rage and vengefulness for victims of sexual assault and abuse. And she really seemed to tap into something for a lot of people that had never really been voiced before. This absolute, white hot, violent rage against perpetrators. It's so vital, because it's coming from a female identifying person or a woman. It's coming from and aiming at the perpetrators and aiming at men, and that's not something that's really been aired very much, I think, in the last 40 years. You've had the likes of Diamanda Galas, but her work is oriented around genocide and HIV and mental illness. But I think that Lingua Ignota has really kind of like hit a nerve for a lot of people, and for me too. So I guess what I'm trying to summarize is it's about that. It's about the emotion again. Yeah. It's about if you're true to something that's going on in yourself, you'll probably be surprised by how many other people will connect with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's right. And I think also they can connect with, I think you can kind of tell when someone's being real, when someone's being honest. And I think even if you've not been through exactly the same things, experiences or emotions, I think you can understand the truth of it and the sort of realness of it. And that resonates. Yeah, so Keithy from Ghost Cult Magazine, hello, says...
I just think that's really funny because he saw Marissa Nadler with 16 other people, and that song says 17 people in it.
There you go.
She was writing about you, Keith.
Maybe it was about that show, Keith. Maybe you were one of the ones on your phone, you know? Who knows? Patrick says, sometimes an artist can have hundreds of thousands of fans with one common thread because they tapped into an issue, feeling, experience. Yeah, man. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also something to be said for running with one good idea for a long time. Like Dylan Carlson from Earth likes to joke about how he's basically just been running around on the same, like his second good idea for ages and ages. And it works for bands like Alcest as well, clearly. I think at least people can see a thread and they know like what you're trying to achieve. I think, this week I had a formal diagnosis of ADHD, age 30, really? And I think, that really explains a lot about my musical output so far. Wow. In the way that I've been unable to sit still, and that's a challenge for building an audience because they hear one song and they think they know what you're about, and then they don't. In my case.
Yeah, it can be difficult, that, can't it? Because I think a lot of the greats, if you like, you know, a lot of the artists that really resonate with people for decades and decades do that. Have changed a lot, but it's like, how do you get into an artist in the first place if they don't fit into a box? Because like it or not, because I mean, I don't like to fit music into boxes too much. But at the same time, if someone says, "Oh, check out Cabbage Head," then I'm going to say, "Okay, what are they like?" And I need some reference. If someone just says, "Oh, well, Cabbage Head are just the best thing ever," I'm going to be like, "Yeah, but everyone thinks the thing they like is the best thing ever. So give me some frame of reference here." So they need to tell me, "Oh, it sounds a bit like Earth," or "It sounds a bit like Jimi Hendrix." You know, that's the thing. So yeah, I can see that. But I think at the same time, to be true to what you want to do, I think you can't worry too much about making sure you're fit. There's no point in artificially squeezing your sound into a box.
No, but you can. There are. Well, this is where self-criticism comes back in, and I'd like to go back to that, just because I have some other things to add. But I think where self-criticism is the most useful, it has to be a bit pragmatic and a bit detached, and at the same time compassionate, because I think there's a lot of worth in making a lot of work over time and grouping it accordingly. So a band like Ulver, for example, they've been all over the place, but at least each album has its own consistent thread. And then there's some albums that connect up, like, for example, when they went through their like psychedelic rock phase recently with kind of the Childhood's End record, and then that blurred quite neatly into the drone of the following record, which I can't remember what it's titled, but
I can't remember.
and then they've done a couple of like synth pop records now as well, with the assassination of Julius Caesar, and I think the one coming up is also a bit like that. So I think you need to kind of think critically about what's the best way to present your work, because I think framing is everything. Like, framing can be really powerful. The way you frame a piece of work can be the thread that ties songs together that someone otherwise wouldn't have figured would work. You can be really persuasive with that. Good framing that goes into the visuals and then goes in, it's about the titling. It can be really, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, just really persuasive. Just plants the idea in people's heads.
Totally.
But when it comes to the self-criticism again, so I'm a big fan of doing things without planning to do them, or doing things without thinking. Or if you're going to have a plan, my best times to write are when I wake up in the morning, I don't turn on any of my devices, I meditate or do a yoga session and eat some breakfast, and then I just go and sit at the piano and I just touch the keys, and then notes follow those other notes that follow those other notes. And for me, this is a really, really good way to write, because like I'm not getting any of the digital kind of ecosystem in my brain, and just free improv. If you're doing the free improv instead of trying really hard to do something a certain way, which, don't get me wrong, also I think has its purpose, it's about play. I think it's about play. If you're in a playful state, you can make anything, and you'll surprise yourself with what you make as well. And the self-criticism can come in, like for me particularly, because a lot of work that I've made, I felt like I've become very self-critical because I felt like it's not what I'm supposed to be making, which sounds dumb, but like I've been trying to figure out how to find a place for myself in the music scene, and I figured, oh right, okay, so there's these singer-songwriters now like Chelsea Wolfe and Anna von Hauswolf and Emma Ruth Rundle, and thinking, okay, I should position myself alongside these people. But then I go and I'll write a song that's not dark enough, and then the next day I've written something that's really like appallingly drone metal despair oriented. So I think the really important thing is just free creation without that judgment, if you can avoid it. And the point at which you can use the self-criticism to your advantage, I think, is more about a constructivist mindset, about your sometimes in the production process, but more about like mixing and framing and how you're putting a body of work together. So yeah, I think that's all the thoughts I had on that.
No, they're good thoughts, really good thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted to say, if people have questions, we'll read some comments in a second, but if people have questions, feel free to chime in. We're getting into the last sort of maybe 15, 20 minutes or so. So do chime in with your questions. So let's just have a little look. So Keithy says, if you have ADHD, check out the Faster Than Normal podcast. So there you go.
Faster Than Normal is very much my brain.
Patrick says that he stopped taking his Adderall 7 years ago. There you go. And he says he loves Olga. So yes.
Medication is an interesting subject, because particularly as a creative. So what I'm in a trial period right now. So I'm trialing 5 milligrams of Ritalin twice a day. And I'm the kind of person that I don't drink. I have a very sparing attitude to hallucinogens occasionally, very occasionally. But I'm otherwise someone who, like, I'm very into working out and being healthy and eating healthily and stuff. But the very interesting thing about this medication so far is, because I understand the mentality that if people don't want to interfere with their chemistry, I certainly don't. And I don't want to lose creativity. But what it's done for me is slowed my thoughts down enough that instead of it being like a firework factory in my brain, and frankly, emotionally speaking, my life for the last I've always felt like a furnace, an emotional furnace, as I've called it, which can frankly make life really unpleasant sometimes. And I'll see how it goes. And obviously, if I plan to use it as a tool, not to be medicated daily, constantly. So, for example, I haven't taken a dose this evening. Um, but being able to slow the thoughts down enough to grasp them properly and um, complete a task as you would like is a gift, actually. So far, so good. And I actually feel very empowered by this particular medication. But the thing about it is it's different for everybody, and it'll be about different doses for everybody, and it's an experiment. So 5 milligrams is a very small dosage for someone of my weight. Um, so ultimately, yeah, we have this. It's a thing we all have to decide on how we're going to navigate through this world with or without the aid of kind of chemical stimulants or chemical alterations. So yeah, the
Yeah.
jury's out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I hope it goes well. So we have a question from Johan who says, so for both of us, so you both write all music by yourselves, but I think you also ask people to interpret it for you playing it. How difficult is it to let go sometimes, or how rewarding to see or hear someone take it somewhere else? So I guess that look, I'll come in on that if that's cool. So
You go.
yeah, so for me, I've worked in lots of different situations, and I know that in years past, I used to find it slightly frustrating at times working collaboratively. I did find it rewarding working in bands where it was a bit more democratic, where we all sort of shared bits of songwriting, and no one song was written by just one person. But that's one of the reasons why I started the solo thing was that I kind of I realized that as much as I did enjoy collaborating, I was getting frustrated with not being able to see a song through from start to finish, and for it to all be mine, because actually I knew I could do it, and I wanted to do it, and I knew that although it was sometimes really, really rewarding to hear other people's ideas and to mix ideas together in that way, actually I wanted to create something that was just mine. So I did that. But how I work now when I'm because I work with a band for my solo music a lot of the time, and I really enjoy that way of working because essentially I kind of have veto, but what I do is I take the basic song to the band, so it'll be the chord sequence, any sort of riffs, things like that, and the lyrics, the structure, and then I kind of give them some basic direction, but I trust them, and I kind of go just do it a bit like this. If play something a little bit in this type of vein, and then they go for it, and I think it's good not to have to walk people through and spoon feed them sort of note by note. I think if you try and do that too much when you're collaborating in that way, I think it doesn't work. I think it stifles their own creativity. And
Absolutely, and I think it's a bit demoralizing as a musician to
yeah,
face that, I think.
yeah. So, so I think I enjoy both. I mean, for example, me and you, Javier, we've worked on a track together, and that was great. I'd come up with some kind of riffs and chord patterns, and then you came up with the melodies and the lyrics, and it's fantastic. So I think now I know that I've got an outlet to be able to do things completely myself and have ownership of them in that way. I'm now kind of enjoying collaborating more again, and actually letting go a bit, and being surprised by what someone else does in a positive way. So yeah, look, it's great. Collaboration is really important, and we ultimately we need that. And music and art is a collaborative process. Even when you're working on your own, you need the audience or the listener. Their input is part of it. They co-create it in a certain way anyway. So yeah, you've got to be open to collaboration, and you've got to not be too precious about things not being exactly as you initially intended them, and about your ownership, because it doesn't matter that much. That you, like if I suppose what I'm trying to say, you know, in my band, if somebody comes up with if somebody suggests something that's really cool and it's a significant thing that means they have a co-writing credit, that's great. That's a good thing. I'm not disappointed because now I don't have the, you know, the entire writing credit. I'm happy because it's improved the end result, and that's what matters really. So I'll let you put your take.
I'm just this is why I should have taken my medication this evening, because there's something you said literally about 40 seconds ago, and I wanted to jump on that, and I've forgotten what it was.
Sorry.
Let me think. It was to do with. Well, I'll just go back to where my thoughts were, I suppose, which is I think it depends where you are in a process, and I think that the main reason I've worked by myself up to now is because, well, no, I couldn't find anyone who wanted to join a weird metal band with me, like in about 2010. So I started doing Wilderness Hymnal on my own because that's kind of the only option I had. And I started off with a vision and a concept, and I basically wanted to make heavy music with keyboards, like a band setup, so drums and bass and keyboards basically as the driving force behind it. And when I did Anthropocene, that record, I had a really strong vision. I had something I really wanted to do, which was creating sonic environments that reflected specific landscapes. So there's a song called Meltwater, which is all about glaciers, and over the course of the song, it moves through different, it basically, it starts off glacial and heats up over time. So there's this literal storytelling about climate change and climate anxiety through trying to encapsulate that metaphorically in songwriting. But after, the thing about, if you have a vision and you hold too tightly to it, then I think you can miss out on a lot of really beautiful experiences with other musicians. And the thing you were saying about stifling other musicians, like an ex of mine was a very talented black metal musician, and the band was very much a dictatorship. And after seeing that, I kind of promised myself I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't kind of dictate to the band. But when I did Anthropocene, it was this really awkward process of me having a very specific idea of what I wanted to do and writing all the drum parts myself, despite not being a drummer, because I thought that would have some weird results, which it did. But then also kind of being diplomatic. And I think where I'm at now is I'm not really bothered about the ego of it anymore. I think I had to go through that process to prove to myself that I could do it, because I'm not classically trained, which is even funnier that I've ended up at a conservatory in Utrecht. But I'm in a space where I really want to share the musical experience with other people and not have to come up with all the ideas myself. And I think it's valuable to have your own outlet, but I'm just in this phase right now where I really want to be surprised. I really want people to bring things to the table that I wouldn't have thought of, and we make something together that is bigger than the sum of its parts. Mm-hmm. So working with you, for example, on that track was a really fun experience once it got into like my writing space. So I have to do my lyrics and vocals in isolation, really, and then I bring them to the collaborator. But I feel like that kind of evolved very quickly, very organically, with a lot of kind of free-form ideas, and that worked really well. So now for me, I'm doing a lot of improvisation and performance where I'm studying, and yeah, the short version is take care not to let ego get in the way. I think if you have a vision as a solo artist, I think ego can still get in the way, and it's good to just, if you can make yourself a servant to the songs and a servant to the music and the emotion and the intention behind them, then I think that's great. I guess I'm trying to say is I feel like my background is a slightly cautionary tale of when when you let ego get in the way of things.
Yeah, I think what you just said there about serving the song, serving the art, serving the artistic intention, that's what it's about. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there. And if it becomes about I've got to have ownership of this song because it's my song, and that's actually to the detriment of the finished song, then it's totally self-defeating. So I think yes, that's a really good point.
Mm.
Stephen Wilson says, I think it can be extremely rewarding when other people draw out a direction you otherwise wouldn't have explored in your work. It can facilitate some aspect of new growth. Yeah, I think, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
totally.
Yeah,
100%. And also that's just reminded me of something else, which I want to again connect back to self-criticism, which I think has been our theme now.
yeah.
For Johan, there's a Norwegian sound artist and singer and novelist and lyricist called Jenny Haval, who is bloody fantastic, and particularly if you like weird Cronenbergian surrealist body horror lyrics, you should go and check out. She has one entire album about vampires and periods called Blood Bitch. But
Nice.
she said something that I really liked in an interview, which is, I can't go around liking my work all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I love that, like this thing of like, I can't just, I not forcing yourself in the moment to like the work exactly then. And as you say, I think I'm also a big proponent of, you make something, you put it away, you don't judge it then, and then you give it, you forget about it, and you come back to it. And I think often if you come back to it, you can better appreciate what it is for what it is and its own vitality, rather than, oh, I wanted to do something like, I don't know, like something else. I wanted to do something that sounded like Darkwave, and instead I've made something that's industrial. Like, let things be what they are. And though having said that, I'd also like to throw in that I'm a big fan of trying to do things a certain way, because I've written songs by trying to copy people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a song that on my last record which I wrote because I was trying to channel the band Virus, who were
No.
themselves channeling Scott Walker anyway. So it was this hilarious, odd Scott Walker via Virus via Diamanda Galas thing. So that can work too.
Yeah,
But
no, for sure, for sure.
this is ADHD brain coming out to play.
No, that's totally fine. So I guess, look, one thing that we haven't covered, just to shift gears a little bit, and by the way, if there are any more questions, please do shoot any more
Fire
questions
away.
across. But yeah, live music. So I know for me, I'm missing live music. Both performing. I'm really missing that. Even though I'm doing some live stream shows, which are great, but it isn't the same. And I'm also
No, it's
missing
not.
that inspiration derived from going to see other bands and just being in that environment with other people. And I find that often gives me a bit of a new lease of life if I'm lacking in inspiration or I'm not feeling that creative. I sometimes go to a gig and then it opens me up to something and it gets my mind working and then I've got some inspiration. Um, so yeah, how's that for you, and what do you think the future holds for that? Because I have to say I'm starting to not be that hopeful that we can have shows back anytime soon, really. But what do you think?
I really don't want to make a prediction. I'm really trying to wait and see with that. I mean, a thing that they have been doing here, which is only possible with a certain kind of venue, is there's a great big music venue called the Tivoli Vredenburg here in Utrecht, which is 6 differently sized venues from a 1,500 seater hall through to a small stacked kind of classical venue called Hertz. And what they did is they've been doing walking tours through the building of all
Okay.
sorts of different genres, and they called this Walk the Line. So I actually went to see a few bands recently. So Johan van Hattem, who's watching, plays in Terzijde Horde. I went to see Terzijde Horde, and also I had the great pleasure of seeing Lasta, who
Oh
are
wow,
probably
Leicester
the
are amazing. Yeah.
yeah, the most interesting band signed to Prophecy Productions currently, in my opinion.
Totally cool band. Yeah, so they did something recently, so that'll be that.
Yeah. So what they did is they did two I think there were five total walkthroughs through the building with different bands. So the one that I went on was Terzai de Horde, Wolven Nest, and Dead Neanderthals. And then Johan snuck me in to see Lasta, who were playing as part of a lineup with Gold and Adelanting, which is Maurice de Jong of Nor Their Tongues. So there were 30 people in each venue. We watched the band for 25 minutes, and then we were led up to another venue to do the same thing again 3 times. So it was a bit weird and very kind of static and strange. But I think in my case, and I imagine for a lot of other people, it was just really good to be in front of amplifiers again and have loud noises made at me.
Yeah, I totally miss it. I just miss being in the environment as well, the people, the conversations, as well as the music. But that sounds great. So maybe there are creative ways that we can work around this, and I hope we do find ways to bring live music back soon, because obviously with winter coming soonish, outdoor shows are not going to happen too much through winter. That's not going to be viable really. Certainly not in the UK and probably most of Europe. So yeah, but we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? I hope we can get it back in some way, shape, or form as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, a kind of addendum to that is anyone who's watching who's feeling a little bit slumpy and uncreative. A lot of artists are doing workshops right now through Zoom because they've had a loss of income. And honestly, I don't believe in like doing networking intentionally. It doesn't work. For me, what works is just chatting to people and like going to things and just genuinely being interested in other people. But I have made some incredible connections during lockdown with some really inspiring people that I admire. So yeah, keep an eye out. I mean, I did a screaming workshop yesterday with Sylvain.
I saw you put that up. Yeah.
Yeah, who's a one-woman black metal outfit on Season of Mist, for anyone who doesn't know. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Just hold on, guys, and keep the hope up. And
yeah, I think I've noticed, and I've noticed it for me as well. Actually, I've noticed quite a few people over the last few weeks have been saying, "Oh, it's feeling, they're feeling a bit of a slump." So yeah, look, man, but yeah, that's really good what you're saying there. Really inspiring sort of advice, and yeah, we just got to hang in there, and one way or another, the inspiration will return when it disappears. There are lots of things going on, as you say, lots of online things, and yeah, different things going on. And I think one thing you've hit on there as well is this idea of making connections. And I think that's something that's been great for me as well. That since lockdown, I've found that a lot of connections that I maybe already had, I've become a lot closer to, or done a lot more with, and I've been working a bit more internationally and globally. In ways that I kind of could have done before. It would have been possible, but you don't always think of it when you've got things going on in your local neighborhood. So
necessity is the mother of invention and all that.
Yeah, so it has inspired sort of those different types of collaborations and international collaborations and things like that. And there is a lot you can do at distance, online, and everything else. And I guess we've got to do that. We've got to work in those different ways. I'm just looking at the time. I think we've got like 2 minutes left. I think it. Sorry, million thoughts from me there once. Yes, I think it cuts off after an hour. So we've got about 2 minutes left. And yeah, Heather says we have each other exactly.
Yeah.
We do. And what's cool, like right now, we've got people in the UK, we've got people in Europe, in the Netherlands, we've got people in the USA, all on the same chat, as if we're all in the same room in a way. I know it's not quite the same. And that's a good thing. And I know I wasn't doing anywhere near as much of that before COVID as I am now. So yeah, there's positives and there's things we can keep even once this situation is over.
I
If
think
anyone's
because I
got any
think the
last
harder.
comments or questions, shoot them off now. I think we've got about a minute. I don't know if it automatically might just cut off. I'm not sure if it gives you a countdown or what.
Yeah.
So do that, and Javier, I'll let you. Yeah, go for it. Have the last thought, I guess.
No, I was just going to highlight that, just to kind of round up, that connection is what everything's about, because we are a social species, and that, I think that's what we're trying to do with music in the first place. If ego doesn't get in the way, and if we're not letting ego get in the way, then we're really just trying to connect with each other, and I think, yeah, we do what we can right now, but definitely trying to connect in new ways is a good way to, I think, ride out this time period. So for me, like working with Lisa, for example, is someone I wanted to sing with for a long, long time, and just having a quick idea, like go do it, instead of over planning, was quite magical. So yeah, if you've got someone you've wanted to write with, just do it now.
Yeah, and reaching out to people. I think that thing of, oh, should I reach out to so and so or so and so? Let's just do it. Like the worst that's going to happen is they'll either not reply or they'll say no. But I think you can sometimes surprise yourself with, there might be somebody whose work you admire and you'd like to do something with them, or whatever it might be. You'd like to interview them, or you'd like to just chat about whatever project it might be. And you know what? A lot of the time, people are open to that, especially now, especially when a lot of the ordinary avenues and ordinary ways of working aren't possible. People are looking for stuff to do that's cool, that's creative, with other people. So yeah, absolutely, yeah, do it. Get in touch with people, and yeah, and don't worry if they don't reply. Just try it with someone else.
Yeah, I mean, a thing I have to always watch myself is that I'm quite busy. So um, sometimes I have to watch the amount of things I'm working on. Because like you saying that, it reminds me, oh, I could probably persuade like so and so in the scene to do a song together. I really want to do it. But then I don't want to, paint myself into a corner where I'm obligated and then I freak out because I've got too much to do.
Yeah, yeah. But better to have more to do than not enough to do, I guess. Yeah, look, Heather's saying I don't think there's a limit on Facebook. I mean, look, I kind of think we're prepared for an hour. I think an hour is probably a good amount of time. But we can just stick around for maybe 30 seconds in case anyone's got any very last questions. But other than that, I guess we'll kind of wind it down, basically.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, look, thank you for watching, everybody. There's been quite a few people on. I can't see everybody's name that is on, but thank you. And yeah, Javier, it's been amazing to chat. As always, we even though we're working together, we don't get that much chance to actually chat. Certainly not. I know it's not face to
No,
face in the
I know.
traditional sense, but we can see each other's faces, which is more than normal. So it's cool. It's been great.
Better than a hole in the head.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Right, guys. Oh, and Heather, thank you so much for arranging this
yeah,
and
thank you, Heather.
for asking me to ask somebody and for getting us to do this. Yeah, and thanks, Lizzie. Yeah, Lizzie has watched
Thanks,
loads of
Lizzie.
these chats and stuff that I've done, which is amazing. Super supportive. Guys,
So
that's
yeah,
it.
hope
Have
hope we've
fantastic.
yeah hope we've said something useful. Shall we do the little last minute promo thing?
Yeah, yeah? Go on, go for it.
So yeah, my name's Javier Wallace. My band is called Wilderness Hymnal. The best place to follow me is Instagram. I don't really post much anywhere else, but that's where I'll be kind of keeping people in the loop about stuff. And obviously, Duncan Evans has albums on Bandcamp, and we will have a split record coming out in the next year and a half or so, probably. So yeah, follow us, and hopefully we'll have more interesting things to share with you at some point.
Totally. And if you like weird music, follow Moonlow as well, my other new project. But yeah, thanks guys for watching and listening. Yeah, appreciate that, Susan.
Thanks, Susan.
Super appreciated. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Have great days and great evenings and great rest of weekends. See ya. Cheers.